Never mind.
3, 2, 1. Our headline today comes from thewealthyaccountant.com. I thought it'd be funnier if his website was the not very wealthy accountant.
Or barely making it account.
Today's piece comes from strugglingaccountant.com.
Accountant in a strip mall next to a donut shop.
Right. This piece is your healthy life expectancy is more important than your life expectancy. And he dives into this idea of your wallet versus your health. And he says, when planning for retirement, people often make the mistake of using their life expectancy as a guideline for how to save and invest. Worse, these same people plan their retirement years with the same life expectancy yardstick. Every retiree advanced in years will tell you there is no race to the finish. I'm going to read that again. There is no race to the finish. There is a slow decline from middle age with an acceleration of deteriorating health at some higher age. And he talks about how he learned this when his dad passed away. His parents, he said, once owned an RV type camper, one of those homes on wheels attached to the truck with a fifth wheel. Every winter they traveled to Mississippi to visit friends. Then one year they decided not to go. Then the RV was sold. Then my parents stopped traveling at all, even bus tours. Dad had both of his knees replaced and the aches, pains were serious. He was still able to get around, but his quality of life was low and dropping. 12 years ago, he had his first stroke. And then the last stroke just happened. He said, my dad was lucky. It went fast, but buried in these events is a powerful personal finance lesson. Well, let's talk about that lesson. Oh, gee, when you're working with people, I mean, we do. I think he's right. We tend to think, hey, I'm going to have this 30-year retirement and it's going to be travel. And, Doug mentioned golf. So we'll go there, golf or whatever your thing is. I'm going to hike. I'm going to travel. I'm going to garden. I'm going to do all this healthy activity. Maybe not.
I remember hearing a long time ago, and I wish I could credit who this was. So maybe Joe, you remember, but retirement time is 3 different stages. It's the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And I thought that was a really good metaphor or phraseology, I suppose, maybe for, the period of time where you're like, all right, I want to go like crazy. I'm going to do all the travel. I'm going to, do all the stuff. And then it's going to dial back a little bit. And then now I'm at the stage where, proverbial rocking chair, sitting on the front porch type of thing. And, but yeah, I think from a planning standpoint, like you said, I think we look at it as a uniform spend, over the course of that 30 years. Retire at 65, you're going to live to be 95. Your spend will be equally distributed over that 30-year period. And I think what he's saying and what real life is showing is that that's not necessarily the case.
Paula, you have older parents. I think you're probably witnessing some of this right now.
Yeah, my parents are both 83 years old. And certainly, I can, every time I see them, I can see how much they've aged relative to the last time I saw them. So if there are even just 6 months in between when I see them and the next time I see them, in between every visit, I can see how much they've aged over 6 months. Fortunately, knock on wood, their cognitive health is very strong. And I think one thing, this article talks about physical limitations, like, his dad had both of his knees replaced. His dad can no longer garden. He talked about gardening. He talked about travel. These are all physical activities. Gardening is a highly physical activity. But the other element of that is your cognitive health. And so long as you have cognitive health, you can read books, you can engage in lively discussions, you can learn new things. My dad and I are constantly recommending books to one another. I just turned him on to Yuval Noah Harari's latest book, Nexus. And his eyes, sometimes he has a hard time reading like the words, so he listens to audiobooks because his eyes.
Yeah.
His eyes sometimes strain it for the physical reading. But yeah, I mean, he's literally now listening to an audiobook about the impact of AI on, like future technological development. And that at the age of 83, so long as your cognitive health is strong, I find that he has a very rich inner life, a rich mental life.
But that cognitive health, Jesse, goes along with your physical health. I mean, all kinds of studies show this. In fact, when we had Doc G on the show from Earn Invest just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how racket sports, there's recent studies that show that racket sports increase your ability to think during your retirement years, which the rise of pickleball they're talking about is actually a really good thing for retirees. You talk about skiing, maybe not being for you, but do you play racket sports, Jesse? You going to live a long time?
I did. I played college racket sports, and now
well, there you go.
Still, there we go. Yeah. I won't tell you what division. No one's keeping track, but
JUCO is a division, Jesse. So that's okay.
But the thing that I would love to know, and I don't know nearly enough about health and biology to understand this answer, but I would love to understand how much of what this article talked about and what we're talking about today is kind of like unavoidable. Like you will simply get older and your muscles will deteriorate. What's that, sarcopenia they call it? Like some of these things are completely unavoidable. Certain diseases are just, your higher likelihoods of catching them the older you get. But then how much of it is really a function of, say, the standard American diet? Here we are with the mostly American audience. And how much of it is truly within our control as individuals to potentially, the saying that the saying here is genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. Have you guys heard that before?
Nature versus nurture kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea would be, for some of us, and part of the planning that OG was talking about, how much of a planning can be, okay, I need to plan to be healthier, to live a healthier lifestyle, and thus to maybe extend my healthy years further into the future.
But it is inevitable, Paula. I mean, nobody gets out of here alive. We're all terminal.
Right. Exactly. So, the most that you can try to do is slow it down to the best of your ability. But yeah, you're right. We're only on this side of the topsoil for so long.
Oh, gee, this side of the topsoil. I have not heard that one. That is great. Oh, gee, I'm thinking from a financial perspective, like there's this wild paradox in our lives, right? As we accumulate wealth, when we think about wealth, what do we think about? We think about driving better cars, that I'm going to drive more often so I don't have to walk somewhere, right? I can afford the electric bike instead of the bicycle that I seriously have to pedal myself. I can take more inclusive, expensive vacations. I can drink the expensive drinks. Like all of the stuff that we do to accumulate wealth creates a lifestyle that goes right directly against this longevity stuff that he's talking about in this piece.
I remember saying this a couple of months ago, but would you rather have Warren Buffett's money or your age? And I think everyone would rather pick their age, than Warren Buffett's money and age, right? It's like no one wants to be 95, or however old he is.
94.
94, right? It's like
I want to be 94. If I wake up and I'm 94, I'm high-fiving somebody.
No,
because I made it to 94.
I want to live past 94. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to wake up tomorrow and be 94. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't trade the fact that I have time for his money. Is my point. And I think when it comes to, there is a little bit of a crossover. I don't know what it happens, but it's certainly more top of mind for me. I don't know what it is for the older gentleman in the room, but it's definitely a little bit more top of mind around, okay, so we do have some resources, right? And which is great. So how do we use those resources, mainly time and maybe a little bit of money, to make sure that we're doing the right stuff with health? And I was had a physical in August, and I was talking to my doctor and going through all the medical stuff for all the results. And I said, Doc, I just don't know, you got to work 8 hours. You're supposed to sleep 8 hours. And then, I got to work out, and, you want me to do this and this and this. He says, it's really simple. The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you go work out. I said, okay, I'm not really a morning guy, but I get it. And I said, well, then when do you get the cardio in? If you're supposed to do your strength training and cardio, he goes, well, you just do that at night. And I said, but I get home from work and then I have to eat dinner and hang out with my kids. He goes, yeah. And then you do the cardio. I said, but then I have to go to sleep. But where's their other time? He goes, there is no time. This is all you have to do now. It's like literally work out and work. Those that, you know, how badly do you want it, basically?
But
You know, and that was his point was, yeah, you do have to make some choices. You're going to have to choose. Am I going to sit and watch the game on, you know, on Thursday afternoon or Thursday night on TV, or am I going to go for a run? You know, am I going to sit on the couch all day Saturday and, you know, hang out with my friends, or am I going to, you know, do something productive from a athletic standpoint? So, I think, you know, what Jesse was talking about in terms of resources, Peter Attia is a great resource for this, and he's got a fantastic book called Outlive. And the general thesis of that is, you know, we want to extend our health span to match our lifespan. Because you said, like you said, Jesse, at some point in time, we're all going to lose muscle mass and flexibility and all that sort of stuff. And so knowing that, how do you back into it? Almost like a financial plan. How do you back into it and say, well, how strong do I have to be by 50? How strong do I have to be at 60 so that by the time I'm 80, that slope, it doesn't put me in the grave, or as Paul likes to say it, under the topsoil.
Let's talk about this lifestyle that Jesse, that you alluded to earlier. He makes the point that his dad lived to be 78 years old. The life expectancy for men in America, 74, I think it was 74.8 off the top of my head. So he's like, my dad won, or did he? And then he talks about how his dad truly had so many years where he struggled after his first stroke that he didn't live a lot of quality years those last years. In fact, they have he has another chart on this website. I'll link to it on the show notes if people want to dive in later. In the USA, our healthy years only go to 66.1. So this decadent lifestyle, Jesse, that I detailed earlier, really works against us when it comes to having any type of longevity.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine if you're listening to this right now and ostensibly you're interested in the kind of things we talk about here, and imagine if you've saved up this nest egg. Maybe you can even retire a little bit early. You're going to retire at 55, and you've got 35 good years ahead of you. You're going to delay Social Security to 70. But then, wait, the average American basically stops living healthy. Their healthy years stop at age 66, is what you just said to us,
66,
Joe, right? 66.
Right. Yeah, 66.
And what it actually means, I mean, an individual who I know who's younger than 60 was just diagnosed with liver cancer, most likely terminal liver cancer, right? And I mean, think about, it's not just that your life is getting cut short potentially, but just all the enjoyable parts of life are getting cut short too. And you might end up in pain during those years where you aren't physically able to do the things you want to do. I mean, in Paula's example earlier, at least, Paula's dad, it sounds like in Paula, your words, was living like a very, very fulfilling life mentally, right? Very stimulating life mentally.
Yeah.
But in a lot of the specific examples of individuals who we might know in our own lives, there can be disease or just chronic pain. And that is something in itself is a fate worth trying to plan around. Not to be
Paula,
a huge Debbie Downer. Sorry, guys.
Got to crack another beer for the rest of this episode.
That's right. So besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Paula, so in your financial plan, like how much of your financial plan is about the health side of the equation versus the wealth side of the equation?
I can tell you right now, at this particular moment in time, most of my discretionary, outside of rent and groceries and blah, 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 most of my discretionary spending relates to health or wellness in some way.
Oh.
The only other exception to that would be travel, a little bit of travel. But health, wellness, travel tend to be most of my discretionary spending.
Do you are you thinking about longevity or just about feeling good now?
But predominantly it's feeling good now, because I've noticed to be able to work in the way that I want to, my energy levels start to dip, particularly mid-afternoon, and I tend to be more easily distracted, like, wow, shiny things.
Right. Yeah, me too.
And so just to be able to to put forth the same level of cognitive energy and focus and work that I could when I was 25. You know, a big focus on health and wellness has sprouted just from the desire to do that. So, but I think that, you know, if you make a habit of it and those things stick with you, and perhaps your why changes over time, but you know, I can't see how you know, if there are longevity benefits to you know, making sure that to paying attention to your micronutrient profile or your gut bacteria when you are in your 30s or 40s, I'm sure that I'm not a doctor, but I would assume that that would also have some long-term ramifications.
Well, if we take a look at just lifespan, like different periods of your life, I think that during the go-go years, Paula, early in your career, it's very easy to put your health on the back burner. You're right. I mean, making the conscious decision that my discretionary spending is going to be on health and wellness is important. I remember, Jesse, to that point, you know, when my twins were born, you know, health and wellness really took a backseat. Are you finding it hard to prioritize your own wellness when you've got a baby on board?
Yeah, 100%. We've got a 4-month-old at home now, which is hard to believe in and of itself. But I'd wager I used to probably work out maybe 4 to 5 hours a week in some, you know, just getting my heart rate up in some way. Now it might be 2 hours, hour and a half or 2 hours a week tops. And it usually comes at 5:30 a.m. I usually sneak out of the house when everyone else is still sleeping and try to get something in before work. But that said, you know, there are little other things. I mean, just again, a personal example would be I walk the dog and I walk the baby in a stroller a lot more than I did before because
get the steps in.
Exactly. We try to do it every day anyway. And it's the substitute, if you will, for the kind of that harder, more invigorating workout. And then, you know, a little extra focus on eating healthy and hopefully everything stays somewhat in shape.
Do you see health and wellness, OG, infiltrate your financial planning meetings much?
Not a ton. No, there's obviously we spend a lot of time talking about mental wellness, especially around money and relationship with money and relationship with other people and their relationship with money. You know, how, you know, a couple or a partnership may have different views of how the resources are allocated or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of mental wellness that goes on there. And there's not a ton of conversation, not a ton of planning around the you know, ongoing health part of it, whether it's, you know, spending or potentially saving, except for the fact that I will put a little emphasis, you know, back to the point from a spending standpoint in retirement. It's like you're going to spend the most of your travel budget is in the front end of it. You know, you're not, you know, if you envision traveling, oh, we're going to travel every year to Europe. It's like, well, not every year, you know, probably every year for the first 10, and then maybe every other year for the next 5, and then probably never again after that. Like the guy talks about in the article here, like, you know, so, but it replaces it. It's not like the money is not going to be spent because then maybe you have higher healthcare expenses later in retirement, you know? So it's, you know, it's not like the spending goes to zero, but we definitely do a lot of encouraging of like, if you have the resources now's a good time to do the thing. Versus saying, well,
just because you don't know.
I'm going to do that later. It's like, why later? What's wrong with today? You know, book the trip. It'll be fun.
So that is, you know, we talk about longevity at Strategic Coach that OG, you and I both go to. It's one of the first things they talk about is if you focus on those things that are really important to you in purpose, that also drives longevity. And it sounds like, Paula, that's a lot of your dad, you know, what keeps him going, this purpose, but working on it now versus waiting for legacy is very important. I want to extend this in the second half of this discussion because I think this can also inform our insurance decisions, how we use our insurance. I mean, we talked about working out, eating healthy, but I think insurance is a big part of this as well. How do we handle that HSA? How do we handle disability coverage, long-term care, those things? And then I want to talk about, you know, is it, how do you get around the fact that working out can just be a pain in the ass? Like, how do we make it so that it's about the journey, not about the destination? I'll love to get your takes on that. But at the halfway point of every Friday episode, we dive into this sometimes close, sometimes not competition between our three contributors. And unfortunately, not that close as we come down the stretch. OG has 15. Jesse, as usual, you'll play on behalf of Mom. You guys have 11. Paula with 8, just waiting to strike. But Paula, if you're waiting, time is now.
No time like the present.
Time is now. So this year-long competition now enters the fourth quarter. We're coming down the stretch. We need a trivia question this week, though. Doug, what's our money trivia on this fine Friday?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And on today's date in history, Saturday Night Live debuted in 1975. Isn't it funny how people love to rip Saturday Night Live? When Adam Sandler was on, they talked about how he wasn't nearly as funny as Eddie Murphy. And when Eddie Murphy was on, he couldn't hold a candle to Gilda Radner. Now, that's Saturday Night Live, the show that continually has gotten worse for 50 years. We're going to be on forever.
We can always get worse.
Imagine if you could get worse for 50 years each year and still bring it. I'd say that's the definition of Joe's mom right there. Just kidding, Ma. Settle down. Here's today's question. Everyone has heard the stories of how grueling the schedule can be for SNL's cast of characters, but do you know how much they're paid? So here's the question. How much does SNL pay a first-year comedian on the show per episode? I'll be back right after I go send a copy of this week's shows to Lorne Michaels. I'm sure he'll want to audition me after he hears how well I did on Wednesday.
All right. First year cast members on Saturday Night Live, how much they get paid per episode? OG, because you're in the lead.
Like Jesse's Googling it, just for the record.
How are you going to win if you don't Google it?
Yeah, if you're not
I'm writing down numbers. I'm writing down numbers, pencil and paper.
I remember reading this some time ago.
Like 30 seconds ago?
All right. Okay. All right. I see what's going on here.
Touche.
Yes, touche. And being surprised by the number. My question, I'm trying to remember, was I surprised on the upside or the downside? I don't remember if I was surprised, like, wow, that's pretty good. Or, whoa, I can't believe they'd work for so cheap. And this is today. Is this accurate? This is not 1975?
This is now.
Current year? Okay.
I think it's last season.
There you go. Now I'm going to be way off.
There it
is. I'm going to go. I'm going to have to, anyways. So I don't know why I have it in my brain that it's $91,000 for the season. Is that the question? That it's per?
Nope. Per episode.
Oh, per episode. Shoot. How many? I thought it was 90,000 a year. I think there's 25 episodes, maybe 30. I'll just do the math. I'll just say it's $3,000 an episode.
$3,000 an episode. What are you gonna do with that, Jesse?
I'm gonna go lower than that, I think, because I was just thinking on a weekly basis. And if you take, $100,000 salary and you divide it by 50 weeks, that's $2,000 a week. And even if they're doing, like Josh thought, the OG thought, maybe a 30-week episode, they still might only pay them on a weekly basis at some rate like that. So I'm going to say $1,800. I'm going to say $90,000 salary, roughly $1,800 a week.
Paula, you've got $1,800 and $3,000.
I think they're both close.
There's plenty of room, Paula, for you to get this one wrong. There's plenty of room.
I think they're both low, so I'm going to go 3,001.
3,001. Paula going with her gut.
I thought you said close.
No, low. I think you're both low.
I think we're low.
Yeah. How much you think they get paid? Like if you had to just guess, how much you think it would be?
Geez, I'd probably guess 10 grand per episode
10 per episode.
ish.
But
But my
the official-
my official guess
Sure.
is 3,001.
So we've got 3,000 for OG, 3,001 for Paula, 1,800 for Jesse. Let's see who's right. We'll be right back. OG, you started off with $3,000. Paula capped that and took the upside. What are you thinking?
Well, it's going to come down to the number of episodes. I thought that the number was about 90 or 100,000 a year. And I just don't know how many episodes there are. If they do 20 episodes, then I'm grossly off. If they do, 40 episodes, then I might be in the ballpark, I think. So we'll see.
Jesse, you had about the same assumption. It sounded like about $100,000 you think they're paid.
Well, I was thinking at like $100,000 rate, because here's my similar to OG. It's like, how many episodes are there in a season, or like how much time do they take off? And if they're only shooting episodes, say like 8 months a year, well, I don't think they're getting paid by SNL during the other time. Maybe they are. So I just said, well, it's as if they're getting paid $100,000 salary, which might be $1,800 a week.
75% of that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was my rationale.
Gotcha. Paula, do you have any rationale besides they're both low?
Yeah, I just think that they're making more than 100 grand. I mean, to be a top level comedian, one of the top in your field.
First year, though.
Yeah, but
First year,
still, that just seems that's a salary that you could get, coming out of your senior year at like some rando state university in rando college major. It just doesn't seem
Like
to
Michigan
compare.
State.
Oh, God, man.
Oh, Doug's mad. What happened? We need
I'm
an
just-
update on the Tigers.
I'm just
He
sitting
slammed
right
his
here.
fist down. It wasn't about
Yeah,
Michigan
we
State.
are recording this while the Detroit Tigers are playing baseball.
Who had an error?
Catcher.
That was an error. That was an error. Fist pound. I could tell.
It was we bases loaded, no outs. Ground ball to Torkelson at first, and he throws it home, and it wasn't a great throw, but our catcher couldn't hold on to it. So now tied 1-1, bottom of the seventh, still bases loaded.
Yeah, I think now it's 2-1, actually.
Oh, great! Now you just ruined it.
The fuck, Joe?
Yeah, sorry. Just
Whoa!
Why?
Live on YouTube.
why you were explaining that. Yeah, we're live on YouTube, Doug. So nice.
Mind your P's and Q's.
We get to beep. All right. Anyway, let's go back. Steve, find a way to cut all that out. Here. Where did I finish? I was saying, how confident are you? Oh yeah, Paula, feeling very confident. All right. 3, 2, 1. Well, we're about to find out how much NBC can lowball their talent, or do they lowball their talent? Doug, who's going to win this thing?
Well, hey there, stackers. I'm this podcast's funny man and SNL level talent, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. I mean, you heard Paula say it just a minute ago, top level talent. Yes, 50 years of SNL this year, and the salaries, while not huge when they begin, can grow quite high. While Cosmopolitan reports that NBC officially won't pay any cast member more than $25,000 per episode, longtime performer Kenan Thompson reportedly earns over $2 million a year. But our question was, how much does a new cast member make? A new cast member. While the total adds up to a not small $147,000 a year, the amount per episode comes down to, well, it was $5,200 more than what Jesse guessed, and $4,000 more than what OG guessed, and just $3,999 more
Oh my
than what
goodness!
Paula
Wait
guessed,
for it.
because it's $7,000 an episode, making Paula today's winner.
Paula Pant.
What I love about this is that I won onto, not only did I officially win, but my actual guess, which was like thinking it was probably in the ballpark of 10,000, was also pretty darn close.
Also won. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Woo!
Gotta have Paula win more.
Look
She
at
has a
that.
lot of energy around winning.
I know. Who are you? What's
like
going
it.
on here?
The Paula dance and everything.
Paula,
What
do you
is
want to
that?
put
all that health and wellness spending is finally paying off.
Is that a dab? Did you just dab somebody?
Paula, you should petition for getting 2 points.
Ooh.
Right. One for the guess and one for the what I would have guessed.
Petition
Yes.
denied.
Wow.
Let's check
Wow.
with our
OG
officials.
quick
that
with
was
quick with
quick
the
decision.
veto on that one. Yeah. All right. Well, Paula making a run at least for second. We'll see what happens next week. Getting a little
Not
drama.
Closing in on second.
Yes.
Fast.
You say I got a chance. Let's go to the second half of this discussion. And I said during the second half of our health and wellness chat here, and which really is more important, the chicken or the egg? What sense does it make to have more money if you can't spend it all? I think about this idea, Jesse, of the HSA and how you go into any forum online and everybody's like, HSA, the heavens opened up and the HSA was formed. And there's this whole story about how, Noah parted the
Bearing straight.
yes, something, and created the HSA. I don't know.
I think it's Moses and the Red Sea, but keep going.
Yeah, you're close.
Moses.
Somebody skipped out on on Genesis, but all right.
It's all that Catholic school education.
Yeah.
Yes,
Exodus, maybe.
all those years of Catholic school education. But seriously, the issue that I've always had with the HSA is money nerds get so excited about the long-term value of that money that we may go, yeah, I'm not going to the doctor. I can just limp for a while, right? I mean, is there a danger of us misusing the HSA?
Oh, probably. And for what it's worth, I think there's a danger, something I tell people, even up front in the assumptions of why you have an HSA in the first place. It's because you have a high deductible health plan, which isn't maybe as nice as some of the other platinum plans out there. And so the HSA is part of the government's way of saying, like, yeah, you're kind of paying a pretty high deductible here for your health plan, and we know that's not ideal. So we're going to give you some tax breaks if you decide to save some money in this HSA. It's better than a kick in the pants, but it's the government's way for making up for a less than ideal health plan in the first place. So I think that needs to be made clear. Personally, in the last couple of years, there have definitely been a few like dental things or there have been a couple health bills that we've decided to pay out of our HSA. Not every single time, but just sometimes we thought it made sense to say, like, okay, just for monthly cash flow purposes, let's just use the HSA in this particular case, and we'll leave the rest of it invested for the long run. And I think overall in my financial plan, I do kind of view it as the medical emergency fund. That's part of the way I view it. And I'm very open to the idea that there might come a day when we need to spend it well before retirement.
But is your health emergency? I mean, don't we want to be proactive and get to it before emergency?
Sure, you do. But I guess all else being equal, what I'm saying, Joe, is, if I have a $500 doctor's appointment that I need to go to today, I'm going to go no matter what. Am I going to pay that from my bank account today, or am I going to pay it for my HSA today? Well, that becomes a function of my monthly cash flow. And if I can pay it from my bank account without really putting myself in any undue financial stress, all else being equal, I think that's probably the right move. What you're referring to, it sounds like, is people being extra stingy with their own medical wellness simply to maintain HSA dollars. And I agree with you. I think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah. Let me give you an example, a hypothetical example, Paula Pant. Very hypothetical. Let's say a guy went to Peru on a really high-end vacation, just completely hypothetical.
So is this guy like early 50s?
Very handsome. Yes. Great guy. He went with Adventures by Disney, and anybody that knows Adventures by Disney knows it's a great trip, and it's 15 million bags of money, right? It's a lot of money. The hotels on this trip are this guy's favorite thing. Left to his own devices, if he had to pay for that hotel individually, there's no way in hell he would have stayed there, right? No way in hell he would have stayed there, just over the top. But because it's included as part of the Disney vacation, he stayed there. He took advantage of, like, he, went
all
to
the mini bar.
I did drink all the mini bar. I did. I had so much fun at that hotel. Like
this hypothetical person did.
I'm sorry. Yeah. This hypothetical person had so much fun because it was included. Right. Mm-hmm. And the ridiculousness is this hypothetical person who did this hypothetical trip, he paid for it anyway. Mm-hmm. So HSA versus full coverage. If I've got full coverage and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get better medical treatment because I'm going to take care of myself because it's, quote, included in my fee. Like, which one's better?
Well, a lot of this is going to depend on if you have employer-sponsored healthcare in which your employer is going to be paying for a piece of that, or if you're buying the whole thing out on the open market. And if you are buying it on the open market, then it's going to be a function of what state do you live in, because
Like state of shock?
yes, state of shock, yes, but also which of the 50 these United States do you live in?
Marketplaces. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes the discrepancy between a bronze plan versus a silver versus a gold versus a platinum is like wow, like cartoon bulging eyes here. And so it then becomes a function of spreadsheeting it out and seeing if paying that additional premium is worth it. It could, I find in some cases, it can be the case that it makes the most sense to get the lowest tier ACA plan and then supplement that with private concierge care, right? Because if you can get a membership to one of those private concierge, you get access to a primary care physician, and you get that private treatment, but it is a way, it's not loaded in with the ACA approved plan. You get additional medical treatment. You get that access to a physician for, for any kind of primary care purposes. And you don't have to go through the whole insurance rigmarole. Another potential option would be to get both an ACA plan as well as also enroll in a private, in a health share, like either a religious or a non-religious health share. Again, it seems a little bit redundant because now you've got two plans, but it means that you don't have to pay the tax burden associated with violating the individual mandate. And yet for the sake of certain expenses that is going to be a huge insurance headache, a rigmarole, you can just go with the medical share plan instead.
The thing that always is worries me about the health share plans, and not the plans themselves, because I feel like the plans themselves are very honest about what they do and what they don't do.
Yeah.
It's people that advocate for them often, Paula, on not just on podcasts, but blogs that I read. Like, they're like, these things are great. Why would you get traditional insurance when right across the top of these plans it says not actuarially sound?
Right.
Like it says it immediately.
They're supposed to be a supplement. Exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do is I often just tell doctors, like, hey, I'm a cash payer. I'm uninsured. Like, you don't have to give them your insurance information. And if you just go there and say, I'm a cash payer, I'm uninsured, they will give you the cash price. And
they will kick you out quickly. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. They will hire a goon to pick you up by the scruff of your collar.
And she's gone.
But if you go in there and just say, I'm uninsured, I'm a cash payer, they give you the cash price, and oftentimes it's fairly reasonable. So, all of those are ways that you can access higher level medical care without necessarily having to pay the surcharge associated with getting a top tier ACA plan.
The idea, OG, of the low cost ACA plan with the concierge medical on your own. What's your take on that strategy?
Well, we do something very similar. We have a group plan for our employees. It is a high deductible plan. And we, like, all of the stuff that Paula mentioned, absent the health share option, is what we evaluate, whenever we have a healthcare expense in our family. So we have a group plan that's for us and our employees. Now, frankly, I'm writing the check for all of it. So it's like, even though it's an employer sponsored plan, it's like, well, okay, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But then we do have the concierge physician, which gives us access to all the stuff that we want. And in terms of communication and regular, consultations and a main point of contact. But then a lot of times, especially because with the kids, it's like, it's a lot easier to just go, yeah, what's the cash deal here? And I've told the story before about my son who broke his whatever he broke, arm, foot, leg, I don't remember. And one of the some body part, one of the casts.
Dad of the year right here.
Yeah, that we've we've been there many times. And I said, well, how much is it? And they just said, well, we don't know until you submit it to insurance. And I was like, how do you not know this? Is this your first day? Have you never casted an arm before of a 8-year-old? Like, how do you not know what the price is until you submit it to insurance? That doesn't make any sense to me. And so I said, well, I'm just going to pay cash. And they said, all right, you got to pay a deposit. It's $500. Okay, fine. Let me know the bill. That was the bill. The total thing was $500. But if I would have gone through insurance, it would have been $2,000. We're a high deductible health insurance plan, so I would have paid $2,000 to count it as part of my, deductible for the
yearly deductible,
which is crazy. So, one of the things, not to go too political, but one of the things that I would really appreciate is some pretty open pricing on what stuff costs. It's like, why does a major hospital in Texas, who undoubtedly puts 1,000 casts a day on little kids, not have an idea of how much it costs to put a cast on a kid's arm?
I don't think that's political at all. I think that's just common sense. You pay for anything else, and there's a price list.
Yeah.
You go into a hospital. We've had 2 discussions with health expert Scott Heiser, and they were just fantastic. We'll link to these to the YouTube live that we did and the episode that we did with Scott. And that's Scott's big thing. You don't have to go to Mexico or Turkey or wherever the heck you're going to go for your treatment. You can go across town, and the price is going to be widely different.
In our group, Doug, I'm probably not throwing it in the wind too badly, but you had a MRI, maybe 2 of them done. You had some, you're old, so stuff breaks. And we were talking about this, and I said, well, my wife just had an MRI, and it was like $4,000. You're like, $4,000? I did 2 of them for $1,800 or whatever the number was.
It was even less than that.
It was it was a relative. I go, did you guys have a different MRI machine? Like, did you have the 1970s model and ours was the 20? No, just different doctors in different states and different it's like, that's ridiculous.
Doug's doctor gave him 2 MRIs and threw in Green Day tickets.
Yeah, exactly. But my point with all of this is that like what Paula said, sometimes the best option here is to kind of combo all those things. I know how much my primary care doctor costs because he charges a bill every quarter, but it also doesn't cost anything to show up to his office. So
Jesse,
that's the included piece.
Yeah. Any other healthcare best practices?
This has been a lot of learning for me. I'm interested because I'm not as familiar with some of these different ideas as what you guys have been talking about. I mean, maybe the one best practice that perhaps I even talked about it here before. I just think back to last open enrollment season. So this is going back 11 months, last November. We knew that my wife was pregnant. We knew she was expecting in June of 2024. So that was a big part of our conversation was, okay, we know we're going to have all these extra expenses here in 2024 with the birth and the pregnancy. And we did what Paula talked about, which was we spreadsheeted it. And it was really interesting and a little bit eye-opening to say, like, well, with the bronze plan, sure, the deductible is way higher. Right. Yeah. But the premiums are way lower versus the platinum plan. The premiums are higher. The deductible is non-existent. And actually for us, we ended up basically saying that unless there's like a really weird corner case, the bronze plan was actually the cheapest for us, even with the fact that we are going to have the expense of a delivery this year.
Yeah. You're not talking about cheapest insurance premium. You're talking about cheapest
total out-of-pocket cost, right?
Total cost.
Correct. Total cost, the amount of money that is leaving our financial ecosystem and going into the healthcare world. So add up your premiums and your deductibles and your out-of-pockets and blah, blah, blah.
Quality of care being completely the same across the board.
The same. Exactly the same. Yeah. And basically the idea is in our particular case, I think for our options, the platinum plan provides some like peace of mind and it provides some certainty where it's like, you just know everything is covered, but you really do pay for it. So anyway, I think it's, especially if a particular family out there knows that they're getting themselves into, they just know that they're going to have a lot of healthcare costs in coming years. I think it can be worth trying to spreadsheet it out.
Spreadsheet it.
Yeah. Working with someone who can help you with that spreadsheet to make sure that you're making the smart move.
Yeah. We had a healthcare expert really challenge us, and rightly so, a long time ago when we first started talking about HSAs on the show. Mm-hmm. And he said, you guys talk about it. If you're healthy, go with the HSA. He goes, even if you're not healthy, the high deductible plan might end up being being a great way to go. So I love the idea of spreadsheeting. Jesse, let's stick with you for just a second, because I want to talk about one more thing about health and wellness, which is, buy a pair of running shoes, buy yourself a Peloton, buy the gym equipment, stick it in a room in your house, or do you join the gym and get the trainer? Like, again, more expensive to get the trainer, but that trainer's waiting for you, or that gym class is waiting for you, where heck, on a random Thursday, I instead go hang my laundry from the Peloton versus actually use the thing.
Yeah, I think we each have to know ourselves well enough to know if we have the personal intrinsic motivation to tie up those shoes every day and go running on our own, or hop on that Peloton every day without anyone looking over our shoulder and make it worthwhile. Because I certainly know myself well enough to be like, yeah, I'm not sure I have the motivation. Joe, you've talked about your running before. I'm not sure I have your kind of motivation for running.
But I don't go unless my running buddies are going. I mean, let's be clear.
Right.
If my running buddies aren't going, I don't go. But if I know that Troy or Trevor are waiting for me at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., I'm getting my butt out there.
Totally. And going back to the racket sports, I still play a lot of racket sports. If I know that I either have like a 2-on-2 doubles match or just a 1-on-1 singles match, and I know that there are other people who, without me, the match doesn't happen, that for me is all the motivation I need to get out and go do it. But without it, I think it is important for people to know themselves, and if they need that extrinsic motivation to get out and get their butt moving. Speaking of, sorry, earlier, Joe, you said how working out is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And for me, I just stopped doing squats, and it just took care of all that.
So he's here all week, folks. Tip here. Does somebody got there it is.
Now.
Yeah. Now it's just pain in the arms or pain in the whatever. Yeah. Pain in the core, whatever.
Correct.
Oh, gee, it is funny. I think Jesse makes a great point, is know yourself, because you prefer to work out by yourself, right?
Yes. There's no doubt about that.
In a room alone with the door closed?
Yes. No. No. I don't think that the Peloton is working out by yourself. It's just like you've said a million times, the hardest part is like just putting your shoes on. There's been many a times where I've sat with my cycling shoes on in the room where literally just sat with the shoes on, like going, I could probably do this. I just have to turn it on. Like I literally just have to press the power button and it will come to life, and Robin will start yelling at me, and the club music will start jamming, and I'll get after it. But I just don't feel like moving right now, so
But so it's kind of a halfway thing, though, because you're still technically, it's just you. You don't have a person waiting for you. Robin's not going to notice if you're not on today's thing.
Oh, she notices.
She
hear her say all the time, I know that you're here. Like, get after it.
Wow.
So, oh, hold on. Doug's got an emotion.
Doug's got some endorphins going on over there.
Yes. What is the emotion, Doug?
Bases loaded triple with 2 outs. Detroit leads 5-2.
All right.
Bam.
Hot darn.
See you later, Houston. See you later.
Let's get this all wrapped up here.
All right, here we go.
The last inning.
Back to this. 3, 2, 1. So for you, it's kind of, I guess it's halfway. You've got the group motivation, but you still.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Be clear, I don't do the Peloton anymore because I do outside biking, but that I do by myself completely.
Yeah. Paula, how about you? Where do you stand on expensive gym membership or expensive equipment?
Oh, well, I live in 600 square feet with 2 people, so I don't have space for equipment. But I specifically decided to live.
Wait a minute, you're not just bench pressing Paulette? No?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But I specifically decided to live in a building that had an amazing gym in that building, so that I don't have to. It takes away the friction of having to even leave the building.
But do you have partners?
No, I do not have any workout partners or anything like that. I don't have a trainer. I just go to the gym. So the other thing that I do, though, so I alternate between going to the gym that's in my building, and I also go to, there's a group workout class called Solid Core. It's kind of similar to Pilates. It's not exactly Pilates, but it's in that family. And so I had a Solid Core membership. Now I use ClassPass. But I will access solid core classes a couple of times a month just to do something that's a little bit different than going to the gym that's in my building.
That's fine for me. The gym in the building, I would never go to. I would tell myself I'm going to when I signed up, I would never go. But the solid core thing, I would go to nonstop. Because for me, you put me in a room with a bunch of people, I'm going to do the thing. If I'm not in the room with a bunch of people, I won't. I love the idea, Jesse, coming back to where you started this, know thyself. I think it's a great place to leave this. I think it's so important that when we're talking about our wallet and our money, having more years to be able to spend with it, or at the very least, you never know when it's coming for you, appreciating the years that you have now and being healthy in those years, as healthy as you can be to take advantage of having a healthy wallet. Let's talk about, because each of you guys are doing things that help people have a healthy wallet. See, another segue, just incredible. I know. You're welcome, America and beyond. OG, what do you got going on this amazing October weekend?
Oh, well, I'm hoping that I have a healthy wallet by winning a golf tournament with my fantastic golf partner. We started on Wednesday. By the time you guys listen to this on Friday, we'll already be 3 days into a 4-day tournament. So
probably so far out in the lead that nobody can catch you.
That's the plan. Well, I'll let you know.
3 days into a 4-day bender.
Also that.
You've never heard somebody swear as much as OG swore in the past 3 days. Yeah. OG, back off that, man. There's truckers around. That's like a Jeff Foxworthy joke. Jesse, what's happening at the Best Interest podcast?
Cool things are happening. We're coming off of September. I think it was our best month ever for the podcast. And the momentum keeps building. We've got Steve Adcock, Dan Otter, and notorious scooter boy Joe Saul-Sehy coming up in upcoming episodes.
Man, what a great lineup, especially that last
great
guy.
Lineup.
It's amazing. Actually, you and I have a lot of fun. We do kind of the same type of thing, OG, that you and I have done in the past a fair amount, which is we came up with our top fives. Ooh. We both had we both had a top five. I won't give it away. It was interesting.
It's a top secret top five. People will have to go figure it out for themselves.
Yes, by tuning into the Best Interest podcast. And while you're doing that, you also want to tune into Afford Anything because there's a bunch of awesomeness happening over there, Paula Pant.
Yes. So I just came back from the Bogleheads conference.
And boy, are your arms tired.
I didn't even say that I flew. I just said that I came back.
Of course.
But yes, I did fly. I went to the Bogleheads conference in Minneapolis. And while I was there, I interviewed Big Earn. Earn stands for Early Retirement Now. His real name is Karsten Jeske. And we talked about economics. We talked about early retirement, safe withdrawal rates.
Wait, what did I tell you ahead of time about Big Earn? I said you're going to love that guy. And Paula?
I love him. I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
So that interview is coming up on the Afford Anything podcast, October 11. And then after that, about a week after that, we're airing an interview with Christine Benz. She's the director of personal finance and retirement planning for Morningstar.
Another amazing woman
at the Bogleheads conference. So yeah, all of that is coming up. And then we're ending October with a 3-episode series with Dr. Brad Klontz, a financial psychologist.
Never heard of him. No, I'm kidding. Yes, we had Brad Klontz in a roundtable discussion we had. If people are nervous about the election coming up, we had Brad Klontz on with experts from Fidelity and T. Rowe Price talking about how to cope with this last year. And if you actually go listen to that episode and Brad Klontz, what I love about Brad, Paula, is that he never says anything outrageous. AKA Brad Klontz always says things that are outrageous, but then he backs it up, Paula.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. And that's at the Afford Anything podcast. Well, thank you so much. No matter whether you're hanging out with us live on YouTube, live on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it today. Thanks to Tina, who made sure we went live because we almost didn't make it. You can see us on Wednesday afternoons. Usually you can hang out with us while we make the podcast. So come join us, say hello, and watch the podcast being made. Thanks to everybody who's left us a review of this show. And thanks to Doug, who's going to tell us what our takeaway should be from this episode.
That's right, Joe. Here's what's stacked up on our to-do list for today. First, take some advice from OG. Your retirement spending will vary wildly between your go-go, slow-go, and no-go years. Make sure you account for those changes while you're building your plan. Second, don't forget that hilarious joke Jesse made when he said he'd replace his cardio workouts by walking behind the stroller. Dude, it's over. Just accept it. It's time to start shopping for pants with stretchy waistbands.
Those are nice.
The dad bod's right around the corner. But the big lesson, no matter how funny your joke is, do not tell Joe's mom that she's the next Tina Fey. Everything goes to that woman's head, and now she's sharing the world's worst jokes. Seriously. She just told me that she now wants to be cremated because it's her last chance to have a smoking hot body. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. You just feed the bear. Thanks to the Jesse Cramer for joining us today. You'll find his Best Interest podcast wherever you're listening to us now. Seriously, I know it's in the same app. And if you don't believe me, I'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. But how hard can it be to find a podcast these days, really? Want something else incredible? How about this? Paula Pant's incredible Afford Anything podcast is also in the same app. Are you kidding me? Mind blown. You'll get it wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And thanks also to OG for joining us today. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar.
And we did it. Who's here? We got E. Boone here with us. Ron's here. Hey, Ron. Ron said, hey, Roundtable, I'm on the ACA through Marketplace with an HSA. I fund the HSA with post-tax money and have to get the tax rebate. Insurance sucks. I think we're all with you. Anybody not with Ron on that one? Yeah. So we treat as major medical and pay cash if possible. And I'm wondering, Ron, if you're that guy that we talked about that doesn't do all the treatment because, you know, you love the HSA and don't want to spend all the money. Very curious. All right. And E. Boone is here with us. Hello. Thanks for hanging out. And those are our comments. All right, guys. We started late, so we got to go. We'll see you guys later. Yes. Go Tigers. Bye-bye.
See y'all.